Hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make a cheesecake. It's going to be a lemon cheesecake but with some raspberry jam or raspberry coulis swirled through it to give it an extra flavour. And I'm going to do this in two distinct parts, although I'll make a single video of the whole thing. Firstly, I'm going to do the base for the cheesecake, and then I'm going to make a strawberry jam or a strawberry coulis, a very thick strawberry coulis. And then once that has cooled down, we'll be in a position to make the cheesecake filling itself and finish everything off. So for the base of the cheesecake, I need a spring-form pan. This is about 8.5 inches, and to go with that I've got 220 grams of biscuit crumbs. I've taken digestive biscuits and I've just put them in the bag and smashed them up. If you can't get digestive biscuits where you are, then any number of other types of biscuits will suffice. I think something called graham crackers is very popular in North America, so they would certainly be worth trying. I'm just breaking up a few small pieces. It doesn't matter if there's a few lumps in them because you're going to mix it with some melted butter, and I have here 83 grams of melted butter, and I'm going to pour all of that in and simply mix the whole thing together. Now, it's not going to form a dough or anything like that, it's just going to get everything a little bit moist so that we can then put it into our cake tin and press it down into a nice level layer. As I do this, I can see a few more lumps of biscuit that I'm going to break up as well. Right, so that's mixed together, and I'm going to put that into this cake tin. It looks rather a lot, but it's actually very little. And with that in there, I'm simply going to take a spoon and press it all down . Level it off. Right, so that's level, and I'm going to put that in the oven, which I've preheated to 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, or 350 Fahrenheit, and I'm just going to let that bake for 6 minutes, 7 minutes, just so that it brings it all together and firms it up. Then I'm going to take it out and let it cool completely. I'll put it in the fridge to cool so that the butter in the mixture firms up and holds everything together. with that in the oven for 6 or 7 minutes, we then think about our raspberry coulis or our raspberry jam. Now I'm using frozen raspberries, and I've got 225 grams of frozen raspberries, 300 millilitres of water and 100 grams of caster sugar. And what I'm going to do is put the water into a saucepan, add the sugar, I'm going to heat that on the cooker until the sugar melts, and then when the sugar's melted I'm going to add the raspberries and stir it together and let it boil down until the raspberries have all softened and sort of disintegrated into a jam, which will then thicken up as it cools down. So with our sugar melted in the water, we can add our raspberries. And we'll keep stirring the raspberries. From time to time, just to make sure that they don't stick to the bottom, because with sugar it can stick. And then when they've all disintegrated, they'll be ready to cool down and form a nice jam that we can use to go into the cheesecake. So now this has been boiling away for about 30 minutes and it's nice and thick. And when that cools down, there will be a nice thick jammy consistency. So I'll just pour that into a jug. So I baked the base in the oven for 6 minutes and I've let it cool. Now I'm going to put it in the fridge and it will cool even further and hopefully firm up the base as the butter gets hard. And I boiled the raspberries in the water and sugar until it's come to quite a nice thick consistency. I'm going to let that cool down, and when that's completely cool I will be back with you and we'll go on to the next step, which is to make the lemon cheesecake mixture. So now I'm back with you and we have our base for our cheesecake, which is firmed up in the fridge after being in the oven for a while. We have our jam, which is a little bit runny, but it's fine for this. That's been chilled as well. And I've set the oven to 120 Celsius, and I'm going to bake this when it's for 45 minutes and then leave it in the oven for a further hour. So what we have in this bowl here is 600 grams of soft cheese. To that I'm going to add 250 grams of caster sugar. I'm just going to mix that together. Just scrape it down to make sure that the sugar gets mixed completely. And then to that, we don't have to mix this very much because we don't want to get a lot of air into it. I'm going to add 150 grams of plain natural yogurt. On the counter, just mix that in again. Okay, and so to that I'm going to add 3 eggs, medium eggs, and I'm going to try and add them one at a time. Then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of lemon juice and the zest from 2 lemons. So this is going to give the cheesecake that lemon flavour that we're after. And into that I'm going to add 50 grams of plain flour. That's just going to give it a little bit of substance, not much, but a little bit. And that is all we have to do as far as mixing is concerned. Just scrape down this paddle. You could do all this by hand. You don't need to use a mixer because it doesn't take a great deal of hard work to mix it in. So then, what we're going to do is put half of this mixture in, then we're going to mix in some raspberry jam, then put the other half of mixture and put some more raspberry jam. And it doesn't have to be precisely half, of course. I'm not going to bother weighing it all out. But if you wanted to weigh it out, I did work out that it's about 580 grams in weight. Now I should have said that I've greased this pan. So I used some butter to grease the edges and the base, and I didn't line the base. Now we're going to take some jam and we're just going to spoon it in little blobs. And because it's thick, but it's also a little bit runny, so it's going to spread reasonably well. And then you can just take the point of a knife, or you can take a skewer and just smear it and swirl it around. It doesn't have to make a pretty pattern. Then we take the rest of our mixture, put it on top. Making more mess. Just want to spread this over. And then we'll take some more of our jam mixture. Now after I boiled these raspberries with the sugar and the water to make this, as I was letting it cool, I did put it through a strainer. That was because raspberries tend to have rather large seeds and not everybody enjoys the seeds. So then we just smear it again. And with that, we're going to put it in the oven for 45 minutes. As I said, that's 45 minutes on 120 Celsius. And what we want it to do is to bake so that just the centre of it wobbles just a little bit. And when it's got to that stage, you can turn the heat off, but leave it in the oven for another hour. Now, some people like to take a knife when they turn the oven off and run a knife just round the edge, because sometimes as these things, cheesecakes, cool down, they're stuck to the edge, and as they begin to firm up they start to crack. So some people, to try to avoid that, just try to move it move it away from the edge slightly, so that if it does sort of crack as it dries out, contract as it dries out, it won't actually crack. So I'll put this in the oven and then I'll be back with you after it's cooled down. So now we're back, and we have our cheesecake. It's got a slight wobble if I shake it. It was baked for 45 minutes at 120 Celsius, and then I left it in the oven for a further hour before I took it out. I've also just run a knife around the edge so that it will be easier to release and it shouldn't crack as it cools down. So now what I have to do is leave this to cool completely, and once it's cooled completely, I'm going to cover it with cling film, plastic wrap, and it goes in the fridge, and it will stay in the fridge overnight, and then in the morning I'll be able to take the cake tin away, or remove it from the cake tin in fact, by taking it off and then taking the base away as well. So I'll be back tomorrow to show you what it looks like once I've taken it out of the tin. Okay, so now the cheesecake has been in the fridge overnight, and it's been wrapped in cling film. So now I'm going to just cut it and have a small taste. Oh, I've cut rather a larger piece than I intended. Oh, I have to say, it does taste very, very good indeed. With the lemon and the raspberry and the silky smooth cheese filling, it really is very nice. So if you get a chance, I certainly recommend that you have a try at making this. It's very well worth the effort. I'll be back with you again with another video in the very near future. Until then, happy baking.